Hey everyone, happy Monday. Welcome to another episode. Today you're going to meet an exceptional author whose life's work is a testament to resilience and empowerment. With four inspirational novels to her name, she crafts stories that deeply touch readers, aiming to inspire, uplift, and spark meaningful conversations. Her journey as a writer began unexpectedly, born from adversity. Facing skepticism due to her background, she transformed her experiences into a novel, unintentionally raising awareness about homelessness and charity. Today, she inspires women to find their voices, discard the limitations of just women, and trust in their abilities. Her message is clear: everyone is destined for greatness, and she's changing the world one inspiring story at a time. Okay, so Leigh, can you please share a bit about your personal journey and the moments when maybe self-doubt held you back from embracing your soul's calling?
Well, for years I was ignored, and I didn't even realize it until this one night I was at this meeting, and I realized that the person who was leading the meeting was pointing to everyone else in the room and asking for their opinions and not mine. And so that was kind of a wake-up call that he wasn't the only one who had done this. A lot of people did this to me, and that's what led me to accidentally write my first novel, Road Home. Um, is is that as a woman, my voice just didn't matter to a lot of people. And it was really hard to kind of realize this. So but I've heard from a lot of women that they kind of hit this moment where they realize that their voice doesn't matter. And so that it's not just me. Apparently, this happens to a lot of women.
Right. And many people, struggle with self-doubt when they have to pursue their passions. But I find like women specifically, they struggle a lot because, other people doubt them and then they doubt themselves. Right. So what steps did you take to, confront your self-doubts and to overcome them?
Well, when I first had this kind of wake up call that I needed to change, after that meeting, I went home and I started journaling, and I just started pouring out all of my feelings, and that's how I accidentally wrote my book. Because I flipped from somehow writing about myself to writing a novel, which I didn't mean to do, but um, I just I just needed to vent and just get everything out. And then I took this giant leap, and I showed it to other people, first a writing group and then an editor, and I worked really hard to try to publish it. And it was this just really, is this good enough to be something anyone else would ever look at, right?
Yeah.
Because yeah, no, it's probably not, because I wrote it, right? So there was still a lot, even though I had a book on my hands, there was still a lot of, oh yeah, nobody's gonna read this, right? Because it's a hot mess. The editor even told me she could only clean it up so much because it's a hot mess. So, I'm like, okay, I'll sell 10 copies, right? That was kind of my attitude going in when I published that first book. Because there just still was so much, because I'd been in that headspace for way too long, because I was middle aged at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And like you said that, you had that self-doubt, right? And it must have required a shift in your mindset also to go forward and, actually decide that you have to publish the book. And, um, so what mindset shifts or practices have you found most effective in building self-confidence and self-belief?
Well, really, I had to start believing that there was no reason to allow myself to be put in this box. All these people for so long had just limited me and told me, "I- I'm a mom, I'm a volunteer, I'm a whatever." And I was allowing myself to be limited by all of these rules that women are supposed to follow. And I didn't even realize that this was what had been happening for so long. And I hear this a lot from other women, that this is where they're kind of stuck to. And I realized that I don't have to limit myself. I can be anything I want to be. I can do anything I want to do within limits. Of course, there are some things that are against the law, but clearly, right? But and this came at a very critical point for me, because my son was at the point where he was turning 18. So I could just release him to be an adult and then go find myself. So it was a really interesting time. And so I just kind of just up and changed my entire life and just said, okay, I'm going to go figure out who and what I am. And I'm not going to let anything limit me. And it was really freeing, because I'd never done this before. I'd always just kind of, okay, this is what I am, and allowed myself to be in this tiny little box. And I was okay with the box. Okay, and now I've just thrown out the box. I moved all the way across the country, and I just reinvented myself and embraced this whole new life. And yes,
Yeah.
it was a giant mind shift, because everything changed, literally everything, from where I lived and how I deal with others, and you know speaking out my truth. Even I used to be this tiny little person who very seldom spoke in public, and now I speak in public all the time, right? So everything about me changed, everything.
Right. And I love that. And actually, that's going to be my next question. Like you said, you reinvented yourself, right? So, in a way, you also, I believe, embraced your soul's calling, and that can be a transformative process. Uh, I would like to know, and I'm sure most of our listeners and viewers would love to know, what role did self-love play in your journey, and how did it empower you to, move forward despite doubts?
Well, I really had to give myself a lot of grace, because it took some time to figure out exactly what I like and what I don't like, and who exactly I was. Because for a long time, I didn't know exactly what I was, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to be. And as a middle aged woman, you would think you would know at this point, right? But I had no clue. So I just had to give myself a lot of grace and try a lot of different things. And if it didn't work, that was okay. And just to say, you know, you're allowed to do whatever you want. And that was all kind of part of this. Is for a long time I didn't allow myself to experiment with anything that I might want to do or might be interesting to me. It was, for a long time, everything was about my son. Not that I didn't love being a mother, it was very important being a mother, but everything was about him, and now everything all of a sudden was about me. And so, hey, if I wanted to go get French food for dinner, let's try French food. If I wanted to go to Europe for 3 weeks, awesome. This was cool, right? And it was all about figuring out exactly what I wanted and giving myself the grace to fail, which I'd never really given myself that grace to do before.
Right. And I think like most women, like as a I've seen like mothers also, because society has, so this is the role assigned by society, that if you're a mother, maybe you have to sacrifice everything. So that I think that needs to change. And another thing I wanted to ask you, like, many individuals, they fear failure when they have to pursue their passions. How did you navigate the fear of failure and use it as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block and write a book?
Well, I actually have gotten to the point where I embrace failure. I Failure just isn't in my vocabulary, because as far as I'm concerned, if you've failed, that means you've tried.
Yeah.
Because if you never try anything, then you can't make a mistake, right? And so, like, now when I get a 1-star review on a book, I like put it on social media for a week and like, look at what this person said about my book. This is really awesome. And people are like, wait, what? You're like, You don't put your 5-star reviews on your Facebook, but you put your 1-star reviews on your Facebook. What? Are you insane? But the way I see it is somebody took the time to read my book and then say why they didn't like it. That is really cool and awesome, right? Because, hey, let's face it, not everybody reads, right? Not everybody is into books. And those that are, they like all kinds of different things. It's like pizza, there are 50 different ways you can top that pizza. Well, not every book is for everyone. So it isn't a failure for me as far as I'm concerned. It's just isn't for them, right? So, as far as I'm concerned, there is no such thing as failure. It's just, okay, you know, do I want to tweak this book into something that these people want, or do I just want to keep going and being me? And so, no, I don't accept failure. I
Right.
just don't.
Yeah, I love that. Was there a mentor or a role model or resource that provided guidance and support as you broke free from self-doubt?
I really don't have a mentor. I've just been kind of working through this on my own and just kind of figuring out life on my own. And it's just been really fun. So, no.
Right. And what advice would you give to someone? Because many people, they feel like if I don't have a mentor, maybe I can't, they feel like if I don't have a mentor or a guide, I will not amount to much in life. So what advice would you give to them? And without a mentor or, a role model, uh, how did it influence your journey?
Well, I think you just need to be true to yourself and just know that it's okay to be you and you don't need to listen to what everybody else is telling you to be, because that's what I did for a long time. I followed all the rules, but you don't have to. You can be whatever you want, and it doesn't matter, like, if you know and yeah, within reason. If you are a mom, there are certain things you have to do because you're a mom, right? But within reason. So I really think, though, especially for women, we really need to give ourselves the grace to figure out who we are, because we'd be better moms if we were. I would have been a much better mom if I'd figured out who I was earlier, because I would have been less stressed out.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And would you like to share any practical strategies or exercises that listeners or viewers can use to identify their own self-doubts and then challenge it and then move closer to, embracing their soul's calling?
Well, I really think that journaling is a really good way for everyone to try to figure out who they are, because when you just free write and just turn your brain off and just let your hand go, there's something about that that just releases something within you. And I don't care whether you are a writer or not. I've talked to a lot of women who have said, "Oh, journaling isn't for me." And I convince them to do it. And then they do it and they're amazed at what comes out of them, and how they kind of discover who they are through journaling. And so I really encourage everyone just to put pen to paper and not use a computer. It needs to actually be your physical hand putting a pen to a piece of paper, old fashioned way, right? Because there's just something about that, and getting your heart out on a piece of paper, and you don't have to share it with anyone. You can burn it in a fire later. I don't care. But there is just something about that and getting that out there, and I just encourage everyone to do that, because it's such a beautiful way to figure out who you are.
Right. And not be defined by, by
Yep.
societal roles and everything. Because I think for women, people tell you that, this is who you are, these are your roles. Then when we realize that we want to do something else, it's like an identity crisis. Okay. And as an author, storytelling is your medium. How did your experiences with self-doubt and soul purpose influence the stories you create? And how do you hope your work resonates with readers facing similar challenges?
Well, so much of myself and my life's journey is tied up in my work. there are little pieces of me in every book, even though they're fiction. You write what you know. So, like, my travels have ended up in the books. People I've met over the years have ended up in my books. And this is why when I hear from readers that this book just hit them where they live and it just tugged at their heartstrings, or they could just relate to this character on such a deep level, it's because I'm writing from my heart to theirs. And this is why I think my books are so raw and emotional, because I write this way. I still, even though I'm now purposely trying to write after the first one, um I do it as a labor of love and trying to show what is in my heart even now. And so I really want my books to be an inspiration and a way to start conversations, not just with between me and my readers, but my readers with people that they know. And so that's really what I'm hoping to get out of my books and what I'm hoping my readers get out as well. And I hear this quite often. I get people who say, "Oh, I read your book and now I had this conversation with my neighbor about, whatever." And I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool." Or I traveled to, Spain this summer because I read all about Spain in your book. And I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool." They never thought about going somewhere, doing something. And then they read my book and I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool." And that's what I want, is I want to be an inspiration, not just for myself, but for others. And I really think I'm starting to do that because I'm getting enough emails from people or messages on Facebook. It's kind of cool, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah. And tell us also, like, how can readers, get access to your books? Are they available on Amazon, your website?
They're available on Amazon. The easiest way is to go to my website, which is leiglincolnauthor.com, Leigh, lincolnauthor.com. The there's links to go directly to Amazon from there. You can purchase the books from there. It's super easy. All of my social media tags are in there. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. You can find all about me and my books right there.
Yeah. And they are available as paperback and Kindle books also, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I'll put all the links in the description box. So if anybody wants to check out, they can check that out. And finally, what advice do you have for listeners, specifically women who may be on the cusp of, embracing their soul's calling, but again, they are held back by self-doubt. So what message of encouragement or empowerment would you like to leave them with?
Well, I really think everyone has a voice. And I think a lot of people don't realize that they do. And I think everyone can use their voice to change the world. They just need to allow themselves the space to figure out what their passion is and then go do it. And I don't care if it's homelessness, which has been my big thing for 30 something years, or if they want to pick up the trash and make their neighborhood beautiful, or if it's helping kids, whatever. I don't care. The sky's the limit. There are so many problems in the world. Everyone can pick a problem and go find their passion, find their voice, change the world. And just don't limit themselves. Don't allow others to label them with whatever, and just be themselves. So often, women are told you're just a mom, just a woman, you can fill in the blank. I've heard it all at this point. And we need to stop doing that. We need to just figure out who and what we are and then go change the world.
Yeah, I love that. I really love that. And thank you so much for making time for this. I really enjoyed, conversating with you, and I wish I had more time. But after this interview recording, I'm gonna hit the road. I'll be traveling for some time. But yeah, it was a pleasure, speaking with you.
I enjoyed it, and thank you for having me as a guest.
Yeah.